We've talked about the good. We've talked about the bad. Now we want to talk about the usage of it responsibly here on Social Media Detox Week.
This episode is all about protecting your mental health using social media responsibly and how you might be able to put some parameters around this incredibly vast tool. We're talking leadership this week, and one of the organizations we are so proud to be at the helm of is the Neuroencoding Institute.
We got to co-found the Neuroencoding Institute alongside Dr. Joseph McClendon III, amazing world-renowned neuropsychologist and incredible mentor and teacher. If you're at all interested in learning more about what the Neuroencoding Institute does and what it can do for you, please visit neuroencoding.com.
You're enjoying this episode on Angel Fenix Productions Podcast Network. To explore a complete lineup of quality programs and media production services, head on over to angelphoenix.com or like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Angel Fenix Productions.
All right, we've got a great lineup for you today on it's just suggestions for maybe creating those barriers around social media.
Well, I'm glad that we're talking about responsible usage. I can't help feel like an alcohol commercial here, right? I think use responsibly. But alcohol is dangerous and they have to say those kinds of disclaimers. I would be shocked if in 100 years from now that those kinds of disclaimers aren't also congruent with social media usage and internet and online usage. Of course, 100 years from now, things are going to look a lot different. I would dare to say maybe even that's only 15 years away or 20 years away. But regardless of how far away it is, we should be using social media responsibly, just like we do any other dangerous, addictive substance like alcohol, because it is dangerous and it can be addictive. And so understanding maybe it's not your fault that you are now addicted to social media, but it is your responsibility to now put some boundaries around it and be conscious of your usage so that you can use your time in a way that suits you.
You know who is even so aware of your usage and the potential addictiveness of the platforms are the platforms themselves. If you've ever scrolled on TikTok for 2 hours, I'm here because I've scrolled on TikTok for more than 2 hours. You've received a video from TikTok itself that stops you and says, hey, you've been scrolling for a long time. You should probably get up and stretch your legs. Maybe go drink some water, have something to eat. They know that the platforms are addicting. And so bringing some awareness to that and not allowing this to be to bring back one of our other episodes, a runaway train for you, can help you a lot in protecting your mental health.
So one of the ways that you can use social media responsibly is to move the buttons on your phone to another place. And ideally, we would suggest putting all of those icons into one folder and then titling that folder something that will trigger you to ask yourself as you're opening it, am I making this choice consciously or not? My folder is called Choose Wisely.
And my folder is called Use Consciously. And it gives your brain just that quick beat when you open it to see the title of the folder and say, am I using this consciously right now? And if the answer is no, you've at least had 3 to 5 seconds of pause to give you the opportunity to take back control and get into the driver's seat.
Now, using social media responsibly, if you're an entrepreneur or you're building a personal brand, which most of us are, even if you have a regular career and a job, you're probably still building somewhat of a personal brand and presence on social media, which means that we want to figure out how to use this responsibly and use it in a way that benefits our business and benefits our brand building. So one of the things that you can do is if you find yourself mindlessly scrolling, that means you are only being a consumer. So shift yourself into at least also being a creator, because when you're spending time on social media and you are creating, now you're like the owner position inside. I got so excited I hit the microphone there. Now you're like the owner position inside of a company and you're not just a consumer. So you want to make sure that if you're just consuming, what can you do differently inside the platform that makes you more active? Content creation is one of those things.
Now, one of the other things that you can do is to actually set usage timers inside your device. I'm not sure about Android because I don't have one, but I'm sure that they have the capability. I know that Apple has it. You can go in and give yourself usage timers. So if you say, I only want to spend 60 minutes on Instagram every day, instead of that 2.5 hours that we see the daily global population engaging in, at the 60-minute mark of you scrolling on Instagram, a little notification will come up and say, hey, are you ready to close the app? Would you like to extend by 15 minutes? Remember, we're just creating a little bit of space. If you're familiar with Mel Robbins' 5-second rule and her 5-second countdown, this is exactly what we're doing. This is what Joseph McClendon would call a scotoma. You're creating a blank spot in your brain so that you can fill it with what you want. So that instead of just going to the app and scrolling on social media, or if getting caught in the scroll and realizing it an hour later, you give yourself a beat, you give yourself a breath, you give yourself an opportunity to say, am I choosing this consciously? And if not, get the heck out of there and go do something that's more constructive.
Another angle on that is to choose your feed. You can unfollow pages, you can mute people, you can add things that are inspirational quotes. So at least when you're scrolling, it can be productive. And that's one way you can bring a little more responsibility to your scroll without necessarily turning off your social media platforms. We hope this minisode has been enjoyable and informative for you today.
This podcast was a production of Angel Phoenix Productions. Explore more episodes of this show or other great shows on the Angel Phoenix Podcast Network by visiting angelphoenix.com. The views expressed in this show do not necessarily represent those of Angel Phoenix Productions or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners.